So the Sony a6700 just got announced, and I've been seeing a lot of comments expressing frustrations about how much better it is compared to the FX30 or how much it sucks compared to the FX30. But really, I don't think one camera is really better than the other. What we should be thinking about is which is a better fit for us. Now, I personally think the a6700 is a better fit for me because I'm a hybrid shooter. I shoot both photos and videos. But I think the FX30 is better in a professional film environment. Now, on the surface level, it's like, oh, that's a no-brainer. But for actual people who are going to be buying these cameras that aren't as knee-deep as us nerds,
one nerd you do not want to mess with,
there are a bunch of minor detail differences that can alter their decision between the cameras they think they want to get versus the camera they should really get. So let's get into the deal breakers.
Deal breaker number 1.
Beginner and casual friendly.
Now, to be honest, I think the FX30 is an incredibly overwhelming camera. There are a lot of buttons and knobs, words like peaking, iris, and zebra. It's a little bit off-putting to see all of this. But if you're gonna be walking down the path of being a cinematographer, then yeah, you better get started learning. But not everyone is gonna be a cinematographer. Some people wanna get the best footage or best photo possible without doing too much finessing, and I think the a6700 makes this way more streamlined. If you come from a photography background, you can easily dive right in. But if you know nothing at all, it's okay too. It uses the updated touch user interface, so when you shoot in auto mode, you get access to the My Image Style function where you can control the focus, the brightness, and the colors with sliders, much like using a smartphone. You don't need to know all the technical jargon. The less hoops you have to jump through to make the video, the better. And if you're already shooting with 1 or 2 alpha cameras in your kit, there's less friction using the a6700 versus fully jumping into a dedicated cinema camera.
Deal breaker number 2.
LCD versus electronic viewfinder.
Now, the biggest deal breaker for me is the electronic viewfinder. That's my biggest gripe about the FX30. It makes it hard to film in extremely bright conditions. Doesn't matter if it's more pro or it has a higher LCD resolution, if we can't see our shot during high noon, it's pretty useless. This electronic viewfinder on the a6700 is immensely helpful. It gives me the confidence that my shot is not only in focus, but also properly exposed. Now, with the FX30, I really think it's meant to be rigged up. There are a bunch of cheese holes around the camera for attachments, but for the most part, cinematographers will still wrap a cage around it. And with it, you can add a high quality external monitor with higher brightness level and a hood, which will absolve that LCD brightness issue. And I always think of cameras like the FX30 as just a base, right? You can use it as is, but it will really shine if you rig it out. But if you're someone who's looking for a camera for casual, for family vacations, or you're a run and gun documentary filmmaker and you want to be discreet, we really don't want our camera setup to be that big. That ends up bringing too much attention. So that's why I think the a6700 in terms of overall form factor is going to be better for the majority.
Deal breaker number 3.
Photography.
Now, obviously the a6700 wins hands down for photography. There's really not much to discuss here, but I will clarify for those who are completely new to Sony. The FX30 is first and foremost a cinema camera, so unfortunately it does not have a mechanical shutter for photos. You can still take pictures with its electronic shutter, but you might run into issues with banding depending on certain LED lighting conditions. You don't have to worry about that with the a6700 because it has both mechanical and electronic shutter. And mechanical is generally better for photography. The a6700 has 11 frames per second burst shooting, so great for any high action stuff, whereas you don't for the FX30. And I would say you would only choose the FX30 if you do 95% video and only 5% photos. Whereas you have more leeway with the a6700. You can go 50-50, 60-40, 30-70, hence a better hybrid camera.
Deal breaker number 4.
AI focus.
Now, I see a lot of people confused about the AI autofocus, and it's one of those things that's tripping up people, thinking that the a6700 is now way better than the FX30. Again, it's not better, it's just if it's gonna be a better fit for you. The new thing is that the a6700 can also now detect cars, trains, planes, and bugs in both photo and video, and while I think that's cool to have, I don't think having bug autofocus is gonna be a deal breaker. The FX30 has human and animal eye autofocus, which works great already. And let's be honest, if you're shooting professionally, for the most part, you're going to be locking off your focus anyway, rather than letting your autofocus run wild, unless you're tracking on a gimbal or something.
Deal breaker number 5.
1 card slot.
A lot of people have big gripes about this because it makes the a6700 not reliable for professionals. Pros need 2 card slots for backup recording purposes. And look, I understand the need of having redundancy, especially if you're doing a paid job. But not everyone that is getting a camera like this is going to be shooting weddings professionally. It's not a big deal. 1 card slot helps keep the overall form factor light and small, and recording to 1 card makes the processing less intensive, therefore heat builds up slower. But if you do fear about your 1 card kaputting on you, the best way to minimize data loss is to back up your cards regularly, opting to shoot with high-end SD cards, and using a handful of smaller cards so you don't carry too many eggs in one basket. When we come back, we'll talk about overheating and why the overpowered FX30 might still be the camera for casual users, despite the a6700 being the overall better choice. But first, a lovely word from our sponsor, KEH Camera. Doesn't matter which APS-C camera you're planning to get, you still need lenses. So why not save a bit of money by shopping for some second-hand glass? KEH Camera is a reputable site to purchase pre-owned gear from. At the time of recording, they got the popular Sigma 16mm f1.4 and even the versatile Tamron 17-70mm f2.8 at a much lower price. And both of these lenses I gave high praises for in my reviews. Perfect for any Sony APS-C cameras. Everything that comes their way gets thoroughly inspected and all backed by their 180-day warranty should something go wrong, or 21 days to return if you end up not liking it. They also offer additional product protection in partnership with Extend. To learn more, check out my link down below to get 5% off your next purchase or 5% off when you sell. Thank you so much for listening. Now back to the video.
Deal breaker number 6.
One-stop shop video functions.
Now both cameras have the same video specs. I'm not gonna read this all out loud. You can check it out here on the screen. But I would say the a6700 have 90% of the best video features of the FX30. So what's the 10% advantage that the FX30 has? Well, there's no denying the FX30 is much more of a professional cinema camera. You actually have true 24p recording, whereas the other cameras have that wacky 23.976. And it has a more streamlined S-Log3 workflow thanks to the Cine EI option. That option only limits you to 2 of the cleanest ISOs to use while giving you the ability to preview the exposure on the LCD screen. The a6700 does not have that convenient feature. Now to clarify, you can still get the same S-Log3 results on the a6700, it's just that you have to manually select the 2 cleanest ISOs, whereas the FX30 is a flip of a button. The FX30 also has built-in anamorphic D-squeeze, and because of that full-size HDMI, the FX30 can output 16-bit RAW through external recorder, so even higher quality footage.
Deal breaker number 7.
Overheating.
Alright, so this is something that's always blown out of proportion, right? There are some merits to the claims, but it's not as terrible as some people make it out to be. If you're shooting your standard 4K 24 or 30 frames per second with the a6700, you're gonna be fine. In my test, I'm getting 2 hours of recording time, even outlasting the FX30. If you're someone who's shooting 4K 60 or 120 for slow motion purposes, you're gonna be fine. When we did our test at Disneyland, we were there for 2 long days, 85°F days, morning to night. We only swapped batteries once, shot photos all day, intermittent 4K 60, 120p recording, and it was perfectly fine. No overheating. Now, I'm not gonna rule out long form 1 hour plus 4K 60p recording, right? I'm sure some people need it out there, whether it's for wedding ceremonies or video podcasts, whatever. If that's the case, get the FX30. In fact, if you know you're gonna be running in a hotter environment, the fan built into the FX30 will save your butt. And finally,
Price.
$1,800 for the FX30 and $1,400 for the a6700. I mean, at the end of the day, the a6700 has 90% of the best video features of the FX30 with 100% of all the photo features. It's gonna be the camera for most people. Save the $400 and pick this up instead. But again, if you're running in an incredibly professional environment, pay that extra $400 for the FX30 for that overall reliability. For my full reviews on both cameras, check out the videos on the screen. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.